Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures. To imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this incredible episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and before we get started on the show today, I just want to encourage you to go to winwinwomen.tv. There are so many amazing shows and show hosts and topics. I'm sure there's something for everyone. We have multiple channels, and we also broadcast on Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV. So go check it out. And let me tell you something. If you missed this episode or you're watching it on Win-Win Women TV, I want to encourage you to go to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com at Alicia Couri, because on that channel, not only do we have past episodes of our show, Unleash Your Audacious Confidence, but we have so many other great resources there for you. Just like you have great resources here on Win-Win Women TV, you have them also on our YouTube channel. And connect with me on all social media platforms at alicia360.com. So today's show is so important. And you know, I don't usually read bios of guests that we have on, but I wanted to read the bio of our next guest because she is so phenomenal, and the work that she's doing that has been, I guess, inspired by her own life journey is just remarkable. And so I want to tell you about Lisa Duerre, who is the CEO and co-founder of the RLD Group. She helps tech companies banish burnout and create inclusive cultures. In 2022, so not that long ago, she was diagnosed with lipedema. I don't know if I said it right, but she'll correct me. It's a progressive stage of lipedema. And lipedema is a misunderstood and misdiagnosed disease characterized by painful fat deposits, often affecting mobility in its later stages. So it impacts 1 in 11 women. And I want Lisa to come on now and help share this journey, because National Lipedema Awareness Month is coming up. And I want, Lisa, you can come on up, and I want to share not just the amazing work she's doing in her own business, but also what this journey has meant for her. So welcome to the show, Lisa.
Alicia, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you, and I'm thrilled that we're spreading the word.
Yes,
right?
it's
together.
an important issue. It's such an important issue because it's so misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that people understand the difference between certain things. And even in promoting this show, I was doing some research, and I was very careful of the words that I used and how to position it, because they're not just the misdiagnosis, but also the misunderstanding and the insensitivity, a lot of insensitivity around some of the impact of the disease, or what it could look like on someone, you know? And so I wanted to make sure I was very, very mindful of that. Not to make people feel, because you know how I'm all about encouraging and making people feel confident in themselves. And so I don't want to say anything to offend anybody while we're promoting it. But what is lipedema? Let's just start with that question.
Like the basics, right? First, thank you for your care, because it's interesting to be on a show about unleashing your audacious confidence. And we're about to use the word fat and obese, right? And disabled. And all of these words typically for people do not unleash audacious confidence.
Right. It does not correlate with confidence when you're navigating it. You're right.
Yeah. Maybe when you figured it out, the confidence is there, right? But when you're in the messy middle, when you've, for me, spent 50 years in a body that I really felt wasn't, looking like everyone else's, and there was no diagnosis except fat or obese, right? Which even then doctors didn't say. They wrote it in my chart, but they wouldn't say it. lifetime of dieting, lifetime of painful fat, lifetime of bruising that didn't make sense. My legs just not looking, air quotes, normal. In my 50s, to be told, oh yeah, you've had this your whole life, right? To be unleashing my audacious confidence. I think part of that is owning your story, right? And spreading the word. So thank you for the platform. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is lipedema? That's the question.
That's the question on the
The
table.
question on the table, lipedema. So lipedema is a misunderstood, many times, painful fat disease that is basically because your lymphatics aren't working correctly and your connective tissue perhaps is not where it needs to be as far as it's just strength. So let me say that in like non-medical terms, right? So the way lipedema presents in your body is you usually will see it in your legs. Let me show you this real quick.
Yeah.
So
So
here's
it's
a
not
postcard.
it's not cellulite. It's not like typical
It is not
cellulite. Now people will
cellulite.
look at their legs and say, "Oh, I got cellulite." So
Yeah.
you might in the early stages think it might be like
That's what I
that.
thought it was, right? So here's the early stages, okay? If you're looking at a video, you're going to see a woman who has slight ankle cuffs, a little bit of largeness in the calves, and the thighs are a little bit thicker. Now it presents different for people, but in general, right, you'll see it progresses to a stage 2 where it's much more thicker and much more obvious with the ankle cuffs. But when you get to stage 3, you lose your knees, right? A lot of times we have knee problems. I know I have knee problems. And it just starts to just get wider, thicker, and more tight. And then when you progress all the way to advanced, it gets to the point where your legs don't really resemble where they were at stage 1.
Yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, it's
Wow.
progressive, right?
It's progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they haven't found any cure for
Not only
it.
that there's no cure, there's no test. So you are diagnosed not by a blood test or an x-ray, you're diagnosed upon examination visually and by feeling. So lipedema is painful fat nodules. You can feel them under your skin when you press on them, right? And so yes, there's so much to this, but maybe I can just land this plane on what it is. Doctors think you're fat.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? Now you could have obesity and lipedema. It's possible, right? I think that's my situation. I think I have all three. I'm the trifecta where I have lipedema that progressed and now I have lymphedema. And so I have swelling from my lymphatics and the painful fat. And I do believe there's some obesity in my body too, especially through menopause. But you've seen my pictures, you know my story. There was a time where I did not present in the body that I am now and was very confused. And the other thing about lipedema, I think that's important for people is it progresses or it shows up at times of hormonal fluctuation. So puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, and gynecological surgery. Now, I want to say this too, if I may. There are men with lipedema. It's not studied very often. And so the thing I want to just say is that we're trying to language that regardless of the body that you're in, you could have lipedema. You just always see pictures of women. So I'll just put that out there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because it's like breast cancer, men can get breast cancer too.
Exactly.
But it's just the percentage is a lot lower because we're 1 in 11 women in the United States are you said it could affect 1 in 11. It could impact 1 in 11.
Yeah.
For men, that percentage would be much, much lower. But again, hormones, lymphatics, the same thing with the tightness of the lymph, like the fascia.
The fascia is big time involved here. Yeah. I mean, you've been on the journey too, right?
Right.
I think the reason we don't know the numbers on men is because it's not studied. I mean, we've known about lipedema since the 40s. And we're just now with the TikTok and Instagram, people are coming to the public and saying, this is what it looks like in my body. This is what I have. And the thing that I've been just so blessed to be a part of is to take on a leadership role at Lipedema Simplified and Lipedema Project, because they do research, they're rooted in science, right? They have medical communities involved as well. And so we've been able to bridge the gap between patients and the medical and research side to be able to make things like what you saw on this postcard, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because there is that misconception or that the obesity, right? Why don't you just diet? Why can't you just lose the weight? Why don't you just stop eating? And all the things that people say to you. when they just don't understand the disease behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, thankfully, more and more people are realizing that even obesity is rooted in it's in the brain, and how, that there are psychological reasons that also impact someone with obesity. So let me just walk back a second, because
Mm-hmm.
you said you've had this your whole life and you didn't know it, but you were just called fat or obese or something, like any one of the terms that we talked about before. Talk to me about the pain, because being obese is one thing, but the pain that you feel in your legs and when you're trying to walk, because if someone like is in that stage 1 and they're like feeling like, what's wrong with my leg? Something's wrong with my leg. They don't look normal.
Mm-hmm.
How can they tell the difference that that it could be stage 1 lipedema versus you've just put on a few pounds?
Yeah, yeah. So the thing that is so interesting for me is that not only are we called that, we in society, right? We call ourselves that.
Absolutely. It
Okay, so I'm just gonna
becomes,
say
yeah.
straight up, the first thing I was like, why are your legs so fat, Lisa? Why do your legs look like this, Lisa? Right? It's like this like deep, like, what's wrong with you? And why can't you get it together, woman? Right? So
Mm-hmm.
at 12, 10, puberty hits, my legs start to get bigger. And I played soccer, but I played goalie because it was hard to run. I was fatigued faster, right? When I would swim, I was like a fish, nothing hurt. I felt great. Well, guess what? 50 years later, I realized the pool is natural compression. So when you're in water and you're moving, it actually makes your legs feel better because your lymphatics and all of your connective tissue, your fascia as well, like everything is being supported with the water. And
Mm,
so the first thing I realized when I look back was like, whoa, no wonder soccer was hard, right? I
right.
played badminton, but I played doubles because I couldn't run as fast as if I played singles. So I was already accommodating myself and making choices early on without even knowing what was up. I just knew my legs were heavy. They
Mm-hmm.
were heavy. When it progressed to where I am now in my 50s, I mean, standing for 10 minutes, I can't stand and cook, right? I need to sit down. We accommodate, we're creative in my house. We work together in my household to make it happen. But stairs up and down, stairs are hard. Stairs have been hard for me since I was in my 30s, right? I
Mm.
just didn't understand it. I just thought I was fat and out of shape.
And again, and you feel like you're out of shape, you're lazy, something's wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
we self-denigrate because we don't understand it either. So
Mm-hmm.
we make us the bad guys, something wrong with me, and not, well, what really is happening to my
Mm-hmm.
body? Can we investigate it a little bit more? And instead of just, I'm fat and I have cellulite and I can't get it together, it's
Yep.
no, this is not right. There is something else going on here. And that's what I really want to bring awareness, because this is about building confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
it's about bringing awareness. So you stop the negative self-talk and you start investigating, what could
Yeah.
this be? And it could be lipedema, it could be something else. I'm not just
Yeah, it
saying
could be.
could be something else, but don't turn on yourself right away. Investigate it. Like, become the investigator. Say, why is this happening? Why am I out of breath? Why can't I walk up a simple flight of stairs and not be in pain? That's not normal. So there's
Even
something
blood
going
pressure.
on,
Yeah. Alicia,
right?
another one's blood pressure too, right? If you get your blood pressure taken, it took me 50 years to realize it doesn't hurt most people. When you get your blood pressure taken, your arm doesn't feel like it's in a tourniquet and you want to punch the technician. Me, my whole
Wow.
life. I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt other people. What is this news, right? But I don't ever talk to
Yeah.
people. I just suck it up and get my blood pressure taken. It's painful. When my dog gets on my lap or a cat jumps on me or my daughter bumps me, it hurts. And
Hmm.
society's like, oh, get over it. It didn't hurt. Well, that's because to the other
It
person, that
didn't
doesn't
hurt
hurt.
you because you have, right, you don't
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it's
condition.
painful fat, right? And so it's really interesting what your message is so important. And I say that to leaders, even in their jobs, much less with their bodies, but staying curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the wisdom is inside the system. So had I said to someone, "Does it hurt you when you get your blood pressure taken?" and someone said no, I could have learned something.
Yeah.
But I just tough it up and move through it and get it done and
And
always
even,
being
yeah,
asked.
even the technician should be aware if you're
Mhm.
if you're crying in pain getting your blood pressure taken, that's something they do to hundreds of people a day. It's like, what's going on? Like, they should be curious. Like, what's going on? Why does it hurt so much?
Yeah, I think
instead
that
of
you just get labeled as sensitive or fat.
blaming
Like,
you, right?
yeah,
They want to
I
blame
always used to
you.
think, well, my arms are bigger. It must just be because I have thin skin. This is what I would tell myself.
Yeah.
Mammograms too. They hurt me.
Oh,
They
well,
hurt.
they hurt everybody. Okay. Just so you know. They hurt
Well, that's good to
everybody.
know, right?
They-
Hey,
they-
everyone hurts with a mammogram, but not with
Everyone
blood pressure.
hurts, but the level of pain, right? The level of pain is different.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important distinction, again, with obesity and lipedema, is if the fat hurts. People don't think fat hurts. Fat is just fat. It's just, like squishy tissue. But this fat has nerves that hurt.
It hurts. It's really crazy how much it hurts. And I think the thing with people with lipedema that I know in the communities that I'm a part of is the pain is really hard to quantify for people because you're used to it and you live with it every day for decades. And so there's this big debate. I went to the World Congress in Potsdam, Germany on lipedema. And there's a whole debate. Is there pain? If pain isn't present, do they have lipedema? And I'm like, they may not know it's pain. They could call it like thick legs or heavy legs or fatigue, right? And so we've been
normalized so much in their life that now, unless it's a level 8 or 9, it's like, I'm just living with 7 pain my whole life. So that's a normal thing for me. And it's no longer pain. Wow.
Yeah, even I think the other thing for me that really shocked me. So the first thing when you do figure out it's lipedema, and then you doubt yourself because maybe I'm lazy. No, you're not lazy. Like, it's a real thing, right? So you go through all this, and then you see all these people on social media influencing you as influencers, saying surgery is the answer, right? Well, surgery doesn't cure lipedema. There is no cure. And so you start to go through the whole process to get approved for surgery, and you hope you can get surgery. And many times,
what kind of surgery? Are you talking
so
about
surgery? It's called liposuction, right?
Okay, I was going to ask if it was liposuction.
Yep, we call it lipedema removal, right? Because it's really it is a medically necessary thing for many people, but it's not a cure. And so people that have the lipedema reduction surgery, whether they pay out of pocket or they're lucky that their insurance covers it, which is not very common, they talk about the pain being so different when they had no idea how much pain they were in until after it was gone. Right. But again, it could come back.
But it could come back. Right.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
I remember.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah. I remember when you first got your diagnosis, and it was such a relief because it's this, there's a name for it. There's I remember you were like, I had no idea. I had no idea that this was a thing. And I just kept beating myself up because I couldn't lose the weight. I was trying so hard. And I think we saw each other soon after you were diagnosed in 2022, right?
I saw you a couple of times. I remember I was going to Florida.
When you were here in Florida.
Yeah, to film our corporate video. And I remember bringing up in front of everybody, like, I don't know what's happening in my body, but nothing fits. And I didn't want to make the corporate video.
Yeah.
And the invitation was, Lisa, it's not about your body. It's about your message. Make the corporate video. So talk about unleashing audacious confidence.
Right.
Here I show up, I fly across the country and do this thing. And I look at this video and I'm like, whose body is that? Because 5 years before that, Alicia, I had lost 85 pounds and kept it off. So 5 years before that was like, I've got this dialed in. I finally got the weight off. Right. But I also had blinders on because I hadn't befriended my body to really look at it. And it was so obvious, even when the weight was off, that lipedema was there compared to when I met with you in Florida and was making my corporate video going, what is that? It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That is, and I love your bravery and your passion for helping people recognize and become more aware of this, because you didn't know, and you'd lived with it and you didn't know. And so now it's about really allowing people to understand that there are differences. There are differences, and the pain that you're feeling is real. It's not imagined, because that's another thing. I'm not going to say who tried to tell you, but that's the other thing they try to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
That it's all in your head.
Yep.
It's not yet that the pain is imagined. I
Yep.
mean, my daughter is going through something right now that she's been dealing with for a few years, that she has pain in her body and they can't diagnose it. So of course it's in her imagination. But you know, so we talked about one treatment. A treatment could be the liposuction. It's not a cure. It's just a treatment. It's just a way to reduce some of the fat and the pain that you're in. What are some other things? Because I saw pictures of you, and if you want to show it, you can, of you in like compression sleeves for your legs. And so how often do you do the compression?
So I have what's called a pneumatic lymphatic pump. And they look like ski pants. I'm happy to pull up a picture and show you. And I also have a jacket for my arms. And so on a good day, I do that 3 times a day. So 6 a.m., 12, and like 6 or 7 p.m. On a normal day as a working mom running a business and, with a tween in the home, it's like twice a day. So I try and do it in the morning and then at night when we're just chilling out as a family, maybe watching TV after dinner. But I did put a picture of myself in this pump on LinkedIn. And what shocked me was how many people said, thank you, me too, but I'm not talking about it. Me too, and I don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it at work. I don't want my boss to know. And I'm sitting here going, we got to talk about this because this is a reasonable accommodation for someone to be fully present in their job, but they have to be in this machine,
Yeah. It's like when we went to breastfeeding in the workplace, right? Allowing women the opportunity to breastfeed or to pump and giving them a space to do that. This is the same thing. Like we need to make room and make space for people who have treatments. If it's the same thing if you had kidney disease and you needed to be on dialysis or something, to make concessions for these things. It's important in the workplace to have these conversations and not whisper behind someone's back about how big they're getting or something like that. Something is wrong, right?
Totally. Well, I'll never forget. I was at one of our events back when I was in my corporate days. Now I'm consulting, but in my corporate days, I remember we used to put like 5,000 people in a room for sales kickoffs, and then all the chairs were locked together, and everyone was like squished in like this. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, how cruel was I to like shove people together? But there were always the larger sized people who would unhook and move around. And one of my colleagues going, look how unhealthy that guy is. Why isn't he eating a salad right now? Like that was literally the conversation about why did they move the chair? And I'm like, I'm the one moving the chair now. I go to the doctor's office. I'm like, find me a bench. Flying, sometimes I have to buy 2 seats to be able to fit comfortably. Right. And that's me buying 2 seats. Southwest will let you refund a seat, but not everybody does. But I'm always like, oh, what are people thinking? Like, there's that lady, that big lady sitting in that chair. I don't want to sit next to her because I've done that. Alicia, I've done that when I wasn't this size. I know it happens because I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
So know better, do better. Right. That's where we are. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. We all prejudge. We all have that because society has trained us and programmed us that way as well. So we all prejudge situations and we don't know what people are going through. We really don't. And so the same thing when it was in your own body and you didn't recognize what was going on, you were saying it to yourself. So you said it about other people and then you started saying it to yourself. How has your life changed since diagnosis?
Oh my gosh.
What's been positive things that have changed and what have been some less positive things since you've been diagnosed?
It is quite a mental unraveling that happens when you figure it out. I definitely thought I convinced the doctors of something just because I was lazy. And then, after 3 doctors said, no, you haven't. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not that influential in the doctor's office, right? When I got diagnosed, I was barely able to walk. I was using a scooter in the grocery store to be able to shop with my daughter and trying to make it fun. And it wasn't fun.
Yeah, because you couldn't even put it on your lap to scoot around because it was a pain.
I couldn't do anything. I could barely walk. I could barely park. When my doctor gave me the disabled parking thing that you hang on I was like, I'm not disabled. I'm just having a hard time. Like, I was like,
so there's a lot of denial, a lot of
what
denial.
is this, right? Yeah, but
But
the
was
more
there
I've
also depression?
Oh, I had massive depression. I was so overwhelmed and so scared because I thought all I can do is surgery and it's not a cure. And I own a small business, a woman-owned certified business consulting firm, and I'm like, where's this going to come from? I don't have that kind of insurance, right?
Mm.
And I was overwhelmed and scared and many, many tears. And I also had to befriend my body, which I had never done. I was disconnected from my neck up my whole life because I didn't like from my neck down.
Mm.
It was in the middle of, coming out of COVID and nobody had seen me in a while, but my body, I gained 100 pounds in a year. It
Wow.
was it was extreme when menopause hit. And it was very depressing and lonely and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was depressing, lonely, and scary.
And I'm going to ask a personal question because you are married to a
Mhm.
wonderful guy. And how has it changed your relationship?
It's interesting. We just got featured as we wrote an article together about what it's like to caregive for someone with lipedema. And he was, he and I also did a master, we did a webinar for the Lipedema Simplified community because let me tell you what it's like to be married to someone with this. You deal with all the mental health and you deal with all the physical, right? So
Mhm.
he has been a godsend. I am so lucky to have a man in my life. We'll be married 19 years this year. Who
Congratulations.
didn't, thank you. Yeah, who didn't marry me for the size of my arms and my leg? He married me for my heart, right? My
Yeah.
spirit. It has been really hard. I was trying to hide my body from him at home, right? I was trying to act like everything was fine when I'm going up and down the stairs and barely catching my breath. And I think he felt a real sense of relief that we had a name for it and now we can actually talk about it. And he's
Yeah,
become a
because I'm
huge
sure he
advocate.
was feeling very like, I can't even say anything. I can't.
No, he's never once brought up my
Like,
weight, ever.
but
No.
even, like, how do I look in this, honey? It's like, I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, no. I remember my sister said to me, we were walking one day and she's like, when did you get a booty? And I thought, I don't have a booty, but I hadn't been looking, right? Because it was like, pfft. And she was really like, she'd observed and had the courage to say something where my husband would just like, I like that dress on you, honey. Right? But he's been wonderful. My daughter has been a godsend, and we've navigated a lot because I was like resentful and angry and bitter that I was stuck with this
Mm,
and that I need to ask for help, which is not a strength of mine. So, if you want to talk about unleashing audacious confidence, part of it is in owning your story with your family and saying, this one's too much. I need your help.
yeah,
Right. So I'm way more confident in my body now, even though my body's not working like it used to.
right.
Mhm.
Listen, Lisa, we're almost out of time for this episode, but we're going to continue this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, because this is an important conversation and we're not going to be here on this show because we do have to shut it down at some point, but we're going to continue our conversation and we'll bring it to you in an encore, not encore, in a part 2 episode. So we're
Right.
going to bring a part 2 of this to you. So, because we want to hear all the good things, right? We want to hear, yes, it can be overwhelming. And Lisa shared with us so many of the challenges that having going through this her entire life and then finally being diagnosed and having a name, but then unraveling like this is for the rest of my life. What am I going to do about this? So we're going to continue to talk about this and we're going to talk about not just how it's changed her life on the positive side now and all the work she's doing with Lipedema Simplified, but we're also going to talk about her business because it has also transformed how she now coaches and talks about inclusive cultures in organizations. And we kind of touched on it a little bit with the airplane but we're really going to get a little bit deeper into this. So please, please, please stay tuned for that. We'll be airing it. We'll be airing the part 2 of this. And just in the last minute that we have on the show here, Lisa, just give them one way that they can diagnose or they can go find out more about lipedema.
Yeah. So I would suggest go to lipedema-simplified.org. You will find a quiz where you can assess your own symptoms. There's a brand new research case definition paper out that has images and diagnostic criteria you can take right to your doctor. There's a provider directory where you can find a doctor who gets lipedema and so much more. We're a community full of lipedema patients, advocates, and caregivers wanting to help people with lipedema go from what's wrong with me to, oh, here's what I can do about it. And yeah, that's the best place to go.
Excellent. Thank you. And we'll make sure we have that website in the show notes so you can check it out. And we'll also put it on the screen in our replay. So we do replay this encore presentation. We do an encore presentation on Fridays on our YouTube channel, and we'll have the links and everything there for you. So we're going to close off for today, but stay tuned for part 2 of this. And I want to share with you as we go that, yeah, this is a challenging topic. It really is, but it's a topic worth speaking about. And we're being bold with it, as I encourage you always on this show to be bold, be brave, and every day do one thing to step out with audacious confidence, even in the difficult conversations about what's happening in our bodies. We need to have those conversations with ourselves and with others. So with that, I want to say goodbye for now on this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence, and I will see you next time on another episode of the Unleash Your Audacious Confidence show. So this is Alicia Couri saying bye for now.